Okay,
the
so
point for me, the intro point was, okay, I get what I can see what Turtle Boy's saying. She must be innocent, according to what he's saying. So I start going through the police records and stuff. So what I find out is she's been charged twice. She was charged 6 hours after Officer John O'Keefe was declared unalived. And
okay.
then we're going to try and be YouTube friendly here.
Mhm.
And then 4 months later, she's charged a second time with murder. So the first two charges were injuring someone, drink driving, injuring someone, and leaving the scene of a crime. I think I got that right, haven't I, ladies? I'm sure
Yep,
someone's going to
that's
correct
exactly
me when
right.
I get something wrong.
Yes.
And then the second charge was for murder. So what happened with the first charge is she didn't plead out. She was meant to go, oh, yeah, guilty. It
That
could
was the
be
point.
worse. It could be up for murder. And, yeah, plead out. But she didn't do that. So then they upped the charges to murder. There's no talking heads on YouTube anywhere or even on the mainstream media who will say anything other than she was overcharged the second time. So,
Yeah,
so that caught my
she didn't follow their little narrative, and
attention.
so
That's right. So because she refused to plead out, and you got to give the girl credit for having the tenacity to go up against a broken justice system, because like right now it really does look very broken. It doesn't look like Massachusetts has, the standard things like rules of evidence. Australia and I think England are very, very strong on rules of evidence. If a judge allows something into court that doesn't have strict rules of evidence, like, for example, digital evidence needs to have metadata, or in the case of a cell phone extraction, it needs to have hash values, like it's got to be unlocked with a key. And that's what the hash value is. It's like a key to unlock the phone extraction. So in Australia and UK, if you enter evidence in without any of that, it's invalid. It's not classed as evidence, is invalid evidence. But Massachusetts doesn't have that. They don't have a
Wait,
what?
I'm trying to process this. I'm thinking, oh, surely this is what's going on in Australia. I'm like, wait, this is in the United States. I'm sorry. I was
Right,
literally thinking, oh, this is how y'all doing it over in the UK. I'm like, wait, hold on. This is happening over here. That's
right.
crazy. So y'all don't
Risa
have
is
RICO over there. You
Risa's a
wouldn't have a
regular in
RICO
our
case
chat,
over
and
there.
she is in Canton. I just thought I would point that out. She's in the town that this happened in.
Yes,
Who?
yes.
Risa,
Uh,
My regular. baby
Risa.
has just
Yes.
joined the chat.
Man,
Right. So without the rules of evidence, this whole case went off out there with the pixies. The judge was letting higgledy-piggledy everything in, and it was just stuff like I just never seen anything like it. And so essentially what happens is, because Karen didn't plead out, the prosecution is now stuck with this stupid murder decision that they made, and they've got really nothing to go to trial with.
Right.
And so what we see at trial is just like this higgledy-piggledy, like I said, smashing together of last minute, what can we get her with evidence? And it really left a lot to be desired. And so the prosecution's case is that they argued that day, and then she got mad and ran him over. When we get into the arguments, we find out that what they were arguing about was his drinking. All day they argued. He whacked her in the head with a pillow that morning, and they'd argued all day. She went home and went, go jump, as you would if you just got hit in the head with a pillow, like in a tantrum kind of thing. And then they argued all day about his drinking. And one of the last things he said to her that afternoon before they met up for drinkies was he said about 4:00 in the afternoon, well, I've only just sobered up. So we know that, that whole argument was about his drinking. This comes directly from their text exchanges with each other.
Right.
So the prosecution's story is leaving out the drinking part. they didn't want to say they were arguing over his drinking, but you can see that clearly in the text that's what they were arguing about, and that she's a raging, jealous, fill in the words for me, Mandy.
Friends with benefits, babysitter. That one.
Yeah, that she's raging jealous because he is very liked in the community. All the women like him, and that she's super jealous about that.
Bit of a ladies' man. That's a good way to put it.
He had adopted his niece and nephew because their parents passed away within a year of each other.
Awful.
He did step up to the bat and took his niece and nephew in, which was fantastic of him to do. But that made him desirable to the ladies.
Very much.
So he's like Matthews.
Yes. Yes. And he, to all accounts, he seemed like a wonderful guy. But their relationship was far from perfect. It was actually quite volatile. It seemed like they were always kind of arguing and bickering at each other.
It's simple. You've got a room you want to renovate. You get samples from the Tile Cloud website.
So they go out for drinks that night, and I'm going to let Aussie take it because there's so much that happens when they go and get drinks.
So he was. Let me just make sure I have it right. So the day of, he had been taking in the spirits, shall we say?
He had been taking in the spirits all day.
He had been taking the drink, and then they went out to drinks again.
That's right.
He messages her and says, "I'm going out for drinks. Do you want to come?"
Okay. All right.
So there's that.
All right. Let's go.
So she meets him there.
Right. So then the defense at the beginning, the defense is told, and this is what we were all under the impression of, the defense is told that there's video footage of her car actually hitting him. And this was put out in the media. And so this is what we were expecting when it came time for trial. We were expecting to see this video, which never happened.
It doesn't
but
exist.
essentially, the turning point for me, I guess, was when I had read from Aidan Carney's reporting, and this is Total Boy, dun dun dun. Everyone that name is very triggering for some people, so I'll try not to say it too often. But that's my warning sound that goes with Turtle Boy. From reading some of his reporting, I found out that someone that had attended the party that Karen took John to had approached the defense and spilled some tea, which kind of kicked off their third-party culprit investigation. And so under Massachusetts law and many states in America, you can have a third-party defense, that is, some other guy done it. And essentially sorry, brain just went blank. The third-party culprit defense came together because someone from the party came forward and said, look, something else, we're aware of something else that happened that night. And then the defense started their investigation.
I think it's important to mention, and I don't want to interrupt you, that when they left the bar, she took him to an after party. She didn't want to go. She wanted to go home. She's in her 40s. He's in his 40s. He drinks all the time. She doesn't. She has a very professional job. And she wanted to go home. So they pull up to the house. This is where the defense and the prosecution disagree. Her story is he goes in and he's going to check out the party, see if it's worth staying at. And he's going to text her or call her or come back out. And she waits 10 to 15 minutes and she hears nothing. She's already fired up from him wanting to go to a party. So she just leaves and goes home. And the prosecution says He gets out of the car. She's mad. So she backs up and hits him.
24 miles an
Miles
hour
an hour
in reverse,
reverse.
in the
24
snow,
Mhm,
on a curb,
mhm.
is how she
at night.
apparently did
Clearly,
that.
you've never watched the Fast and Furious because he did that. Dom Toretto did that in Fast
I'm
and Furious
waiting.
7. He won a race running backwards,
Oh,
and the
look.
engine was on fire.
Yeah,
I'm just
24
saying.
I'm
miles an
waiting for
hour.
episode 8 where they're doing it in the snow.
Is it which one were they chased with a sub by a sub? I want to say it was 8. They were chased by a sub in a submarine on ice in Fast and Furious 8. And I don't care. Anybody can tell me that Fast and Furious
Oh,
is
look.
bad, but I love it.
Anything with Vin Diesel, you get already sold.
Yeah, Vin Diesel. That's his name, Vin Diesel. Thank you. I couldn't remember that earlier. All right,
Vinny.
so they're saying that she was doing 24 miles per hour backwards in a driveway.
In the snow.
In the snow.
In the snow.
No, it was a road in the snow.
Wasn't it
at
like?
night.
It was late too, right?
It was after midnight.
Yes, it was after midnight.
Well, the
Yeah.
time is debatable. We'll get to
Yes.
that because
Yeah.
Lally switches the time every time he opens
Yeah.
his mouth.
Lally is the DA that prosecuted it. You hear her say
Right,
Lally and roll her eyes.
DA Lally. This is where we get into the pre-trial shenanigans. And
Pre-trial shenanigans.
if you think the YSL pre-trial shenanigans are
Oh,
fun,
Lord.
wait till you hear the Karen Reid pre-trial shenanigans.
Can I stop you real quick before
Sure,
you go too far? All right.
sure.
I need real quick. How do you
Sure.
spell higgly piggly? Because I need that word to become a real thing. I need that to become famous. How do you spell higgly piggly? We gotta make that. We gotta make that a thing.
HIGGLE. Higgledy. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay,
Yeah.
please put in the chat because Rome King is gonna have to use it all next week. So thank you. There you go. Rome King, you got your assignment. You have to use this word in a professional setting next week, and you have to somehow or another record you using it in said professional environment.
In context. Gotta have
In
it in
proper context, Rome King.
There you go.
Make it happen. Make it happen, Captain. Okay. I love that. I love it. I love it. I like
It's funny
cattywampus too, but I haven't heard you use that. But higgly piggly, I'll take that in substitute.
And Red Jack is absolutely right. This was not a regular snowstorm. They were calling it a blizzard.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Well, I mean,
but
we're off the
there's
rails.
a catch. There's a catch.
Mhm.
You know, you've got before the blizzard started and then after the blizzard started. So this is why I call Lally's time well, higgledy-piggledy is pretty close to Lally's brain on the timing because he changes from pre-trial shenanigans through to opening statements and then all the way through the trial he's saying a specific time and then at the end of the trial he changes the time again. So during pre-trial he was arguing a lot less about the timeline and more about the details. So he was saying at one stage that John was holding a glass. So he apparently left the bar with a glass in his hand. And that's, saying that a police officer has stolen a glass. But besides that, Lally's story is that the glass that he was carrying somehow hit the car and exploded and made all the cuts in his arm. And we're going to defer to Jody when we get to that part of his injuries. But when AJ is Alan Jackson, so he's one of the lead defense attorneys.
Amazing.
Yep. When AJ jumps up and says, like, this is just totally ridiculous. Look at the injuries. This absolutely cannot be possible. Lally switches his tune again and he's like, no, hang on. That's not what I said. But then whatever it was he said was higgledy-piggledy. Nobody really understood his comeback anyway. But essentially he was still claiming that glass was the thing that did the damage to John's arm right up until he got his key witness on the stand who totally refuted it and said, well, first of all, one of his key witnesses said that the glass that was on the bumper of her car did not match the glass that he took out of the bar with him. And secondly, that his accident reconstructionist blamed the taillight. So that all went backwards and forwards for quite some time. Lally blamed Team Reed because a federal investigation kicked off, which we have since learned was not just about this case. It was involving certain police officers connected to this case who are also connected to other cases. So this is a pretty big federal investigation. Whilst they were doing their investigation, they uncovered exculpatory evidence that exonerates Karen Reed.
Right.
So they did this investigation before the trial even started, or they started this investigation before the trial started, and they had a grand jury indictment as well. So, but the defence wasn't allowed to bring any of that into it.
I'm not going to get into this majorly, but people are asking in the chat what his injuries were. He had a huge place in the back of his head, and this was on his arm. Other than that, he had no wounds on his body, no bruises, no bumps, no breaks, nothing.
Other than what you're looking at here on his arm, he had no injuries below the neck whatsoever.
Right, nothing.
Right. So yeah, anyway, this is still pre-trial. Lally's blaming the defense team for kicking off the Fed and investigation by saying that they gave the feds Jen McCabe's full phone extraction, except that at the time he's making this argument, they still have an unresolved motion before the court demanding the keys to Jen McCabe's phone extraction. They still haven't got the keys to unlock it yet. They've been given an unlocked copy, but they can't tell from the unlocked copy that this is an original copy, that this is a legitimate copy. So without them giving them the locked file with the key, there's no way to verify that this evidence is actually the evidence that they extracted from their phone. So Lally's pointing fingers at them saying, oh, you gave the feds this information, but they literally didn't know whether they had the information.
Right.
So there was that shenanigan. And that is where Alan Jackson's, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. And the ducks will come into the picture a little bit later when we're finished sort of explaining everything, because the ducks are really important.
The ducks are a big deal right now. The Karen Reed saga.
Is not one piece of evidence that's come into the trial that hasn't been tainted because of the level of corruption, the actual intake process of where the evidence gets, the chain of custody, and it is
no
all
rules of
been
evidence
tampered with. Yes, it has all been tampered with. So anything that's been presented at trial has already been manipulated in the prosecution's favour.
I have a short video actually of
this stuff all started pre-trial, like the shenanigans with the evidence. This is pre-trial still. We're not even up to the trial yet. We're still way at the start where
it's true.
Where the duckies came from and all this sort of stuff. So this is still at the start of the trial, but I'll let you get to that in a minute. I've only got three more points to make.
Oh, go.
Lally also misrepresented to the court during pre-trial motions that his expert, Ian Whiffen, created the Celebrite software. And I went and checked on their website, and it clearly says that 3 Israelis wrote it, not Ian Whiffen from the UK/Canada.
No,
so
he's got his own program.
That was a misrepresentation to the court. He also misrepresented to the court that the software that the defense used to analyze Jen McCabe's phone data was different version to what he had access to. I also went and checked on his website, and that's not true either. So for those who are not familiar, I'm actually a software developer by trade. So these are my babies. So I can tell you
the latest Aussie where they've actually found that Ian Whiffen never actually gave the hashtag value, so you can't authenticate any of the data extraction because it's been altered.
That's what I was just talking about with the grey key files. They never got the keys to the
Yep.
so,
sorry.
before the trial has even started, DA Morrissey, since we're on the DA Morrissey topic, he decided to do a public announcement, a public statement or presser or whatever you want to call it. We're calling it the hostage video because he looks like he's being held hostage.
He does.
Before the trial's even started, he releases this press release and he says, Karen Read is trying to reassign guilt, which is essentially saying she's guilty. We don't care if she's had a trial or not yet. We're declaring her guilty. And then there was also, in that sort of same period, he also released or gave ADA Lally a false notice of discovery to the court, denying that the feds had witnesses testify at the federal grand jury, despite the fact that the subpoenas had been served 7 months prior, and those testimonies were confirmed by DA Morrissey's own letter 7 months prior. So that was another misrepresentation that he made to the court during pre-trial. Then Lally claimed that Karen admitted guilt while being held in custody and then showed the most stupidest video on the freaking planet. Like, I'm serious that you couldn't get a dumber video to support what he was trying to say.
I don't know what video you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know what video you're talking about.
Why is somebody from Australia teaching?
Please, I didn't rack that video up.
No, that's okay. I'll get it later, but that's fine.
In the video, she said, "You're all in on the joke, right? My taillight's broken and John's pulverized."
So she knew right from the start what she was at for.
She knew they were pulling her leg right from the start. That's what that says to me. It certainly doesn't say what Lally represented to the court, that was an admission of guilt. That's exactly what she said in that video. Anyway, last point. Auntie Bev. Everybody knows who Auntie Bev is.
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
But Jason will be like, Auntie who? So Auntie Bev, for Jason's benefit, is the judge. Her name's Judge Beverly Canoni. And she was showing bias like all the way through all that shenanigans that I just described to you. She was showing a lot of bias through all of that.
Judge.
And so the defense did what they should do and asked for her to recuse herself because she knows all of these characters that were at this party. And they provided evidence that she knows them. She sends them money via Venmo. And the people that were at the party actually call her Auntie Bev. And they had threatened Aidan Carney that Auntie Bev, or that the Commonwealth was going to go after him and put him in jail. And they also said, whose seaside cottage do you think we're going to bury your body under? So,
and she did she go to school with, or she has some kind of connection to the prosecution. To the prosecution.
Oh yeah.
She's got a lot of connections to the people who are at the party. And we haven't even got to why the people at the party are the focus here, and it's because of the third party culprit defense, essentially. So Bev refuses to recuse herself, and in her own ruling, in I won't recuse myself, she's decided that by not recusing herself, it would not do any harm whatsoever in the public trust, or to the public trust in the judiciary. And boy, was she wrong about that, because all you ever hear now is how biased the judge was and crooked, and everyone believes it. Even people who didn't watch any of these pre-trials watched the trial and decided, yep, she's biased. She's definitely in on something here. And just to give one example of that, both the prosecution and the defense had agreed that they would leave Aidan Carney out of the trial. Okay, so he did have some connection, but only because they were trying to make a connection. They figured if they could get Karen Read talking to a reporter and then that reporter has incited protests, and they could connect Karen Reid to those protests, that they could have her bail revoked. But at the end of the day, they all agreed, let's not bring that into it. Like that was something that was going on the side. They were trying to get Karen Reid's bail revoked, but they all decided, defense and the prosecution decided, no, we won't bring that into it. We've already got a complex case as it is. Let's not bring that into it. And Auntie Bev went, well, I disagree with both of you. And the judge's job is to interpret the law, not to be making decisions for the prosecution or the defense. So as far as I'm concerned, that was totally uncalled for, her disagreeing with them and allowing it in. But on top of that, she also decided that she's not going to allow spoken grounds for objection. So if you've watched any of this trial, you didn't hear a single ground for objection. You heard a lot of objections, but not why they were objecting.
Right.
The reason
so they can't get, okay. Really?
Objection, Your Honor. And then she decides without them saying. They couldn't say, badgering the witness or
why they were objecting.
Right.
Oh, wow.
They couldn't say why they were objecting.
It was really annoying.
And the reason she was doing that is because that gives her and the state plausible deniability at appeals. So that's way complex to explain. I don't want to get sidetracked with it, but that's the reason that she did it, so that anything they wanted to appeal on as far as objections that were on the record, there was no grounds for objections. There was only her saying, well, she wasn't even saying. You know how you normally hear a judge say, sustained, overruled, that's pretty normal.
Lord knows we've heard enough of it.
Right.
Everything was secret.
Judge Bev never said that. Judge Bev was
Auntie Bev.
we'll let them have that. Oh, big sigh first, right? Biggest microphone sigh first. It would be like, we'll let them have it.
To the witnesses, which was really weird. I've never seen that in a case before.
Can you answer that?
Yeah. They would object to something, and she would look at the witnesses. Is that true? Is that what happened? Can you answer that? It was really odd.
It was odd. Would you like to object, Mr. Lally? She was actually telling the prosecution when they should be objecting. So when people watch any of the pre-trial shenanigans and saw her bias there, people who watched the trial picked up her bias straight away. The first thing everyone complained about across the board, tens of thousands of people going, if she sighs into that microphone one more time, she's like shocking with the sighs. And it was only ever when the defense was saying something, it's like, oh, do I have to listen to this? All right, so I'm nearly there, guys.
No, love it.
You're fine.
Opening statements, jaw droppers. So Lally basically spent his 40 minutes, name, position, short sentence on what they were presenting, times, what was it, 76 witnesses. That was his opening statement, essentially. He didn't tell us he didn't tell us his theory on how it happened. He didn't say, did he? It was just all our witnesses for 45 minutes.
The problem with not having
practically the whole trial was, I hit him. That's pretty much.
When you haven't got,
he didn't even say that. He didn't even say that in opening statements.
Yeah.
That was closing statements.
Yeah.
In opening statements was a list. I mean, the dude put everyone to sleep. Anyway, by the time the defense got up, everyone was like, "Yay!" Because
the defense gets up and goes, Karen Reid was framed.
That was his opening words, very first words. Karen Reid was framed. And after Lally's boring, monotonous, it was like everyone woke up. I'm sure the jury did too.
Yeah.
So in that opening statements, the jaw droppers were Trooper Proctor, who was the lead investigator, was looking for nudes on Karen Reid's phone before he even had a search warrant to look at her phone. And while he was looking for nudes on her phone, he sent text messages.
I knew that. You guys didn't mention.
to the bosses and the
This
friends
is
and
the
the
lead
wife
detective,
and the
Jason.
girlfriend.
Wait a second, Aussie. Jason has questions.
Sorry.
It might be a language barrier. It might be maybe a time zone issue. He was looking for what?
Yeah, that's nothing.
On
He was
Karen
looking
Reed's
for
phone. The
what?
lead detective.
Why was he okay? Why was he expecting there to be spicy pictures on her phone? Is there some reason? Does everybody just have these on their phone? Don't tell me that. Don't answer that question.
Got me.
I can't take this case. No,
Oh, that's not even the tip of the iceberg.
oh my gosh, I don't need more. I don't need any more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that
on.
I can say anything more because he used the C word and a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, I did hear that. Yeah.
Yeah,
How he
and
was
he
referring
told
to
her,
her.
"See you next Tuesday." He
Whack job.
he was texting in a group text with his high school buddies, his supervisor, people,
Other
his sister,
colleagues.
people that weren't connected to the case.
His wife.
His wife wasn't in the group this text because he was talking about how hot she
Well,
was.
not in the group text, no, but he did send her texts about the case. So
he did send her text about the case. Yes, he did. And this was 17 hours after John O'Keefe passed away.
No, it wasn't 17 hours. Oh, yes, it was. It was 10 o'clock that night. You're right.
After John O'Keefe passed away, and he was already saying, "I hope she unalives herself." And I am paraphrasing because I'm not reading off anything, but I hope she unalives herself. No nudes so far. Things about her medical conditions.
Balloon knot.
About her
balloon knot.
About her medical conditions. That's pretty much all I can say. It's really bad. You should Google it. It's awful. Things that would humiliate anyone.
Totally unprofessional and derogatory and disgusting.
Yeah.
Right.
And he had already made up his mind that she was guilty.
He did. And the worst thing, I mean, those things are bad enough, but the worst things that he did was going through her phone without a search warrant, first of all.
Right. No search warrant. He's digging through her phone.
He violated client-attorney privilege because she had communications on her phone with her attorney. And at that stage, it was just a DUI. That was the first 4 months. It was just a DUI. So she'd call a DUI guy, not the DUI guy, but a DUI guy.
Right.
And he read her text messages with her lawyer. So those were the jaw droppers from opening statements.